Greetings, folks. Welcome to the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. 702-820-1234. In a crash, call Sam & Ash because you deserve what's right. Now, here in Las Vegas, I had an opportunity to talk about this with Alan Stock this morning, and I've been thinking about it all day as the emails have been pouring through to me. And we were talking about the visitation numbers in Vegas. And some of this is a qualitative problem, and some of it a quantitative one. And there's a difference. There's a lot of subjective beliefs being put out there into the media about how the Vegas economy is tanking, visitation down, etc. And by the way, the same Trump-hating panicans are saying similar things about our economy as a whole. If you go and poll anti-Trump people, they're all convinced that a major financial downturn is just around the corner. If you talk to, Trump people, or even independents, they're far more optimistic about the economy. It confirms to me what I've always believed, is there are people who would gladly talk down America, talk down their city. Those of you speaking negatively about things here in Vegas, I know who you are. I've gotten the emails. I've gotten the direct messages. I have seen it. And look, my people say, well, Sam, visitation is down. Because, of course, I was telling Alan this. I acknowledge that, right? We have, what is it? The LVCCA said it's 12% or 11% lower than this time last year. That's not an insignificant number. I understand this. But when you put videos on social media of an empty terminal at Las Vegas International Airport, formerly known as McCarran, Harry Reid, yeah, but we're not going to give Harry any, I'm not going to give him any fanfare here. So anyway, we go to the airport, you see it, but take a video somewhere, some off hours, and it's empty, and then put it out there. Look, Vegas is dead. It's over. People aren't spending money. So ask me. I live here. I mean, I know a lot of you are listening around the world. You get the podcast. You go on Apple Podcasts. You go on Spotify. You find the At What's Right show, and you've got us. So maybe you haven't been here to Vegas in a while. Yes, some places, some restaurants are very slow. But I flew into town. I was gone over the weekend. I flew back in 11 a.m. on Sunday. And the airport was packed. It was going to the Uber pickup spot over there in Terminal 1 in the structure. I couldn't even get through the people. It was like I had to just force my way through a mountain of humanity. I've been to restaurants. I went to a restaurant on a Monday night a few weeks back to Bavette's over on as a steakhouse over on the Strip. Inside Park MGM, and it was absolutely packed on a Monday night. So anecdotally, I can give you a lot of evidence suggesting a completely different narrative than what is being put out there. And the Daily Mail today ran top of the page all morning, a big story about how Vegas is over, the economy is cratering, this whole just depressive piece. And I take so many issues with this. So again, an important point. I can't take credit for it. A friend of mine mentioned this. He said, it always depends where you start, because our visitation to Vegas over the last 10 years, we've been hitting record numbers year over year over year. Let's put it into perspective. First, it's not just Vegas. Second, Vegas numbers have a high place to come down from, all right? We're going through a cycle. The last 4 years of Joe Biden were not particularly good. We had COVID. We shut down the casinos longer than we should have. I was one of the people arguing for them to reopen, and of course, got a tremendous amount of hate back then. That's all a matter of record. When we finally opened, okay, this is beginning of June, I think June 2nd, whatever it was, 2020, finally reopened. And I remember it was pent-up demand. I mean, most people started to kind of realize that, you're going to drop dead if you visit Vegas. It came in hordes. And by the way, they quickly started getting their PPE money and their stimmy checks, and all this free money started getting dumped into the economy. And a night at the Wynn went from, I don't know, $300-400 a night to $1,000 to $1,200. Other casinos, lower end casinos, also went up in price. And you'd see this, by the way, elsewhere, not just Vegas. You'd see it, for example, at Disney World. Disney did the same thing, upped and upped the prices because demand seemed to be endless. But then the reality of the Biden inflation era hit. And starting in 2023, real pain was setting in. Now, many people got over this using credit cards, HELOCs, right? Getting loans, lines of credit, etc. Sitting on, a lot of people who had homes, had at this point quite a bit of, of money there. So they would pull it out in loans, and they would spend this on. And the point is that over 2 years has also run out. Many Americans are maxed out. There is a reason why Trump was elected in 2024, in spite of the fact that the media and every major Democrat swore up and down that the economy was hunky-dory. The economy was not hunky-dory. And when I talked about the economy as a non-fan of President Biden, I think that's a fairly safe thing to say. Really, not a fanboy of the former president, nor of his anointed successor, Kamala Harris. Yeah, I still would always preface every conversation. I hope the economy gets out of it. I hope we get over this. I hope we get beyond it. I'm praying for Vegas. I mean, I've always never wanted to be in a position to talk down our country. Now, Trump wins, of course, because the reality on the ground is different than the narrative. And now I'm frustrated because I actually see glimmers of improvement and hope. I see finally a government doing what it's supposed to be doing. Scott Bessent today made a great announcement. I don't know if you caught it, but he basically said that he forecasts that this year tariff revenue will be higher than the projected $300 billion. And that he wants to use that money to pay back debt. Robbie in there is nodding. He is loving this. Why is it important? We pay back debt. We lower the deficit, even by a little bit. Helps drive down inflation. Helps boost the economy. We have to take in and rein in the excesses of the last 4 years. Now, while we're talking about COVID, one of the things a lot of folks aren't talking about and don't mention, and I was saying this to Alan too, the casinos, when they were shut down March, April, May, June, and then the slow, months coming out of it, they were massively in debt. Yes, they got some bailout money from the government, but they were in debt. And they had to get out of it. And one of the things that they did following 2020, following the COVID debacle, was they began selling their properties, the asset of the casino. So if you go to the Las Vegas Strip, a number of the casinos here are the Bellagio, for example, MGM. They are tenants in that building. That building belongs to a real estate investment trust. Now that trust dictates the terms of the rent, right? They've got a contract. There are escalators in those agreements. Have some insight into this with friends in the industry, but the prices continue to go up year over year. And the economy is souring. So the casinos, I mean, have to make it work somehow. And the culinarists, right? The biggest union here in town, the culinary union, by the way, might as well be a political arm of the Democratic Party. They keep pushing for raises and bigger and better contracts for their workers. And I mean, I don't know how the casinos are even making it pencil. So when you see people complaining, oh, there's a $35, $50 cocktail on the strip. I mean, yeah, but I mean, some of that comes from a perfect storm of inflationary pressure, of unions run amok and wild, and of course, of a prolonged shutdown. Back when we had a governor who was a weenie and listened with bated breath to every brilliant idea that came from Gavin Newsom's mouth. That happened. That's indisputable history. So each and every one of you emailing me, look at what Trump is doing to Vegas. My gosh, what nonsense, complete and utter nonsense. By the way, this sort of reality denialism I think is permeating a lot of society right now. And I came across something. I want to get to this here fairly early on, because the job market, I'm speaking now to, I have a business in town, I have a law firm, I hire and fire people. It's something I've done for years. And I'm telling you, there is something afoot right now with young people. There's a clip that went viral in the last 24 hours. I'll share that with you, and why it is so indicative of the problems that many business owners have getting quality people in the door. Of course, we'll get to everything going on in DC, and cannot forget today, Robbie, you cannot let me forget this. We got to talk about that terrible crash in Florida. The illegal immigrant truck driver with a commercial license given to him by a blue state. 3 people are dead as a consequence. Lots to cover today, so buckle up. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Rebuilding the economy is going to take a bit of fortitude from our workforce, something not found in the younger generations with as great of ease as it was in mine and many of yours. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings and welcome to the What's Right Show. Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email. At What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. So I may have mentioned this a couple weeks ago, just the exasperation that I and many others in the business sector feel now with the Gen Z workforce coming in and not wanting to work very hard, wanting everything to be easy, immediately asking for giant raises. Entitled, I think would be a word for it, but also just overall weak. Just weak. I just put in any of the work and all of a sudden it gets to be a little bit hard, or gosh forbid, a little constructive criticism comes their way, and all of a sudden, everybody's melting down. So there's this gal who went and got a big degree, a PhD even, from a famous school called Berkeley, otherwise known as Cal, up in the Bay Area in California, a very famous top-tier UC school. Now, she got a PhD. I guess it's in soil biology. So you can't even say that it's a PhD in something stupid like, I don't know, like diversity studies. It's actually in something useful. and she complains that she can't get a job. Now, the first words out of her mouth is a criticism about capitalism, of capitalism. This is what she says.
Getting crushed by capitalism is like so cringe, but it's like it's happening to me. And like I got a PhD from Berkeley, and like I can't get a job to save my life. Like I got a soil biology PhD, and like now I'm a tutor and a babysitter and a dog sitter. And like part of that is because like I don't want to like move to some random place in the middle of nowhere. But like the other half is like they cut all the funding for science, and like the biotech market is just like absolutely cratered.
Okay. By the way, my mom growing up was in biotech and a chemistry PhD, and worked, in a very up and down volatile environment. We always managed to have a roof over our heads. But, she moved from Chicago to North Carolina to Irvine, California. We moved a few times to make things work. And at one point even commuted halfway to San Diego from Orange County for a job. And it's called doing what you have to do to get your career going. Hell, to keep a job. Well, I don't want to move all around the country. Now, I have a point with this. It's not just to heap ridicule on this weak individual. So bear with me. Capitalism. I don't want to, oh my gosh, I'm getting crushed by capitalism. So cringe. Ha ha. But this has been really tough. Now, part of it, she admits, is her not wanting to move. The rest of it she blames on these conditions, these market conditions. But wait, it gets even better. Literally, the next thing out of her mouth is explaining why it's difficult for her to hold down a full-time job.
I have long COVID, so it's difficult for me to work like a full-time job, and just like I got on here to rant a little bit, but like, oh my God, like what do we do? I just have to work.
Yeah. By the way, her TikTok handle is Emily is normal. Emily, this is not normal. This is not okay. But somewhere in this country are a couple of hardworking parents who have done well for themselves, who are, she looks like she's well dressed, sitting in a car. She's been in school her whole life, doesn't work, does some dog sitting, she says. So somewhere there are parents who have funded her and allowed her to be this way. My greatest joy in life has been to be a father. No question about it. 100% greatest joy in life. And I think the reason I love it so much is I have an opportunity. I have all this stored, accumulated experiences, and I'll call it even wisdom that I have gotten from my parents, from my grandparents, through experiencing my life. And I absolutely love passing this on to the next generation, to whom much is given, by that person much is owed. And I feel this very strongly. So I love this. And the best thing I can do, and that you can do as a parent, as a grandparent of young people, is to make them build resilience and emphatically make it clear that, okay, I'm going to help you through school, but you got to get out there and you've got to work. You got to get out of school. You've got to work. There has to be a moment where that person takes the job and works. Long COVID, she's making TikTok videos. She can, long COVID. People work with real disabilities? This is offensive. But this type of attitude right now it's been allowed to permeate. The last 4 years did not help any of this. So when we talk about economic downturns, we talk about economic pressure. Some of this has to happen even just so that young people in the workforce buck up. Can you imagine back in the day when you were 20-something years old going, I got the flu. Can't work. What a joke. Trump has just signed an executive order calling for an audit of all NGOs receiving federal funds. This is exactly what we voted for. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, behind the What's Right microphone. Listener Bruce sent me an email about Las Vegas. I think it's a great point. If Las Vegas can survive 9/11 and the pandemic, as well as various other economic cycles, it will make a comeback as it always does. It's the only city of its kind in the world. Bruce adds he's lived here close to 50 years and he is not worried. Bruce, I agree with you 100%. Now, let me say this quickly about this Gen Z generation. Played this clip by this graduate, a PhD doctoral graduate from a school in Northern California, a little school called Berkeley. Maybe you've heard of it. Anyway, this gal's complaining she can't get a job. She doesn't really want to move anywhere. Also, I don't know, working full time now. She's got long COVID, she says. If you are a Gen Z young person and you have a work ethic, your parents taught you how to work, you're driven, you're focused, you are going to inherit the earth. That's my point. I have a nephew who is going to law school. I didn't talk him out of it. No, he's going to law school, and I wasn't gonna talk him out of it. I mean, for him, it's great. He's a very, very smart guy. Now, it's a story here. I'll get to it here in a moment, folks. Applying to law schools, right? Before you apply to law school, you have to take the LSAT. This is the standardized test. By the way, the left has been at war with standardized tests because standardized tests are racist. Anyway, so the LSAT, basically a racist exam, depending on who you listen to, and it's used to determine, it's one of the two major indicators or determiners of whether or not to get into the school of your choice. And people always ask me, how do you get into law school? What do you do? It is 49% GPA, undergrad GPA, and 49% LSAT. It's your GPA and your test score. That's 98%, 49 and 49, of the total consideration that goes into whether they accept you as a student or not at school X. 2% of it is your charming personality. That's it. So if you've got bad GPA and bad LSAT, you think you're going to get into school, and you think because you've done X, Y, and Z and you're incredible, forget about it. Now, my nephew got a 180 on his LSAT. Now, what's a 180 on the LSAT? Some of you lawyers out there will be giggling because that's a perfect score. It's literally a perfect score. By the way, that is not the score I got. Thank you very much. Okay, my guy did well. I just didn't get a perfect score. So, and he's, people in the family are talking, oh my gosh, Alex is so smart. So I asked him the question, right? Because I'm curious. I asked him, what did you do to prepare for the test? Do you know what he said? Do you know that he took 30 timed practice exams? Back to back to back. He spent basically a month and a half taking practice exams under timed conditions, figured out what he did wrong, went back and did it again. Figured out what he went wrong, did it again, and again. What's the point of this? Why am I telling you this? Because I think there's this problem in life where people see success, some guy out there, some obnoxious yuppie guy with a nice car, and they just think, it came to him. It just sort of dropped in their lap. And nobody sees the effort. The effort is invisible. The prize is always, or can be seen, or it can be it's felt, right? You could see what the accomplishment is, but you rarely see, unless you know the person, the effort, the agony, the work that went in along the way. And that's we have to get back to teaching kids that work is a glorious thing. And one of the worst things that the left has done to education is that they have rewarded people in school, middle school, high school, college. They have rewarded people in school not for academic excellence, not for being deep thinkers or doing the best work, but the grade goes to whoever regurgitates the politics, the preferred politics of the school, which is 99.999% always radical left-wing wackadoodle liberal. So these institutions have been graduating people who are either just vapid ideologues, regurgitators of liberal catechisms. Global warming is an existential crisis. Systemic racism is something that we all need to fight against together. Just to name a couple. And that's what they're honestly, they're like the Woody doll from Toy Story. You just take the liberal, take him out of his box, like a Labubu, take him out of the box, unwrapping. Ooh, I got the commie version. Oh, I got the Zohran Mamdani version. I was like, no, he doesn't. That one comes with his own bodega. Anyway, but you pull the little string is my point. Out come these just learned, trite phrases. It's jingoism. That's all it is. And even this gal who's got a science degree, even though she has, I hope, learned something about science that wasn't related to saving the planet, she still hasn't learned the basis of work because her parents probably took care of her every step of the way. She never had to do anything. She might even clean her own room. We have done our youngest generation, or three youngest generations, really a great disservice. We haven't expected very much from them. And so they've learned laziness. And guess what? The tech is making them even lazier. Oh, I got my answer on my phone. I just go on my phone. I chat GPT. Right? But guess what? Chat GPT isn't going to complain about long COVID. The AI bot that will do the job 24/7 without complaining and do it better than the Ivy League college grad. That chatbot is going to do. These people are going to get replaced by the very tech that has been lulling them to sleep. And speaking of tech, one of the best things that we could do in schools, and I'm seeing a growing trend of this, which is hugely encouraging, is actually removing these devices from the classroom. I'm so annoyed right now. I was back to school night last night, Robbie. I had to go and sit there and go through all my middle school daughter's classes. And yeah, I know, literally my youngest kid is in the 7th grade now. I'm starting to get old. Anyway, the wife and I are sitting there. We're going through all the classes, and everything now is on the iPad. It's iPad, this iPad. I'm like, get off these screens. Just like, this is such a fad. I think it is. I think it's because there's so much distraction on the screen. There's school districts now that are giving kids the kind of, the pouches that you get that, that basically cut all the signal to your device. You you shut your device off, you put them in the pouch, and they lock it so you can't get back into your phone, but you hold on to your phone the whole day. They're using this now in schools. And it's Well, it's successful. I mean, it's getting the job done. And I think, I think this is good. And I think, well, where do we have? We have the teacher, don't we? There we go. Let me play this clip for you. This is a teacher telling what happened to his classroom as soon as the little phones, iPhones and smartphones and everything, tablets went away.
My school, my state, banned the phones. Banned the phones. Today, all of my students, 100% of them, took notes in my class, did their assignment, asked for help when they got stuck, and turned it in. And then when they were done, they talked to each other. Was it this easy the whole time? I have been pulling my hair out for like 8 years. Has it been this easy of a solution the whole time?
You know what it reminds me of? Like Trump comes to office, closes the border by sending the military and deploying ICE and Border Patrol. Close the border. Was it that easy? Oh, yeah, it was. District of Columbia, a lawless hellhole a month ago. Last couple weeks, Trump is in there going full orange Nazi, and all of a sudden crime is down significantly. Was it that easy? Well, yes, it turned out it was. And kids distracted, their brains rewired by technology. You take the distraction away, and all of a sudden, presto, they're learning. They're talking to each other. They're developing social skills. This reminds me of some other statistics that are coming up. Harry Enton got into this, what all the things that we are and are not doing. This was a fascinating segment on CNN. All right, don't go. I got to take a quick break here. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. By the way, small side note to the no one's coming to Las Vegas because the orange man and the tariffs against the Canadians. You know, the Canadian economy is in the toilet, like worse than ours. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. I'm just, okay, there's tariffs and the Canadians are mad at Trump. Got it. But their purchase power is in the toilet. By the way, I have family in Canada. Not proud of it, but, such is life, right? I'm kidding. By the way, if my Uncle Peter's listening, I love you. I did not mean that disrespectfully at all. But I'm telling you right now, my aunt and uncle live in Alberta, okay, which is a red state. They hate the left-wing politicians in Canada that are destroying the country. Despise them. Canada's not a monolithic place. Neither is the U.S., frankly, right? Well, we've got the U.S. and then we've got the Somalian Republic of Minnesota. But, I'll get to that later. No, so it's not a month, but I'm just telling you. And then you got news about Air Canada. I mean, it also doesn't help that Air Canada, they're on strike. The economy in Canada is crashing. And the Canadian, flight attendants there and pilots of Air Canada striking. Is it the pilots too, Robbie? I know it's the flight attendants. But regardless, they're on strike. They want more money. They've been ordered by the labor board to return to work. Just literally the government telling them, you must return to work. And they're like not doing it because, revolution, down with the man. A friend of mine in California is on the board of Air Canada. I got to check in with him, see what the monkeys in his circus are doing. Anyway, So, uh, I will get to Ukraine. I will get to Ukraine. I'll get to all of that. I promise. Now, Robbie, what's that? The pilot, no mention of the pilots. No, okay. The pilots are not in the, the pilots are not in apparently part of the strike. It's the flight attendants who are there, for your safety. I like when they say that. We're here for your safety. Okay. All right. Also, I got another email here from SW. They're called Faraday containers. This is the little, that's right. I was at the tip of my tongue, SW. I appreciate the email. These are the pouches. Kind of looks like nylon, and you put a phone in, and you put the phone in, and it basically blocks all signals. So even if the phone is on, it cannot receive or send anything. So they're being given to kids. You walk into school and you put your phone in the pouch. The person there seals the pouch, and you can hold on to your phone. You can keep it in your backpack, but you're not using it for anything. And this apparently is doing great things. For young people, focusing in class. All right, mentioned Harry Enton over at CNN. This was interesting. So this was on Sunday. We had this locked and loaded for yesterday, but just a lot of stuff going on. One of the things that they mentioned is that alcohol and cigarettes are at record lows in this country. Now, this has been a developing story, and I actually think it ties into a little bit of why Las Vegas is going through something right now. Tastes are evolving. And by the way, you go to any casino, restaurant, any place, and all of a sudden there's a bevy of non-alcoholic drinks being offered. That is new. So Enton goes through, he usually talks about political stats, but I thought this was interesting as well.
Yeah, I mean, my goodness gracious, this is a huge decline. Americans who drink alcohol, we are looking at the lowest level since the 1930s. What are we talking about? Just 54% on occasion Americans say that they drink alcohol. That's down from 4 points last year. That's down from 62% in 2023. And it is way down from the record high the last year that happened, when it was 71% back in 1978. This record low is being driven by younger folks and Republicans as well, as they increasingly view the idea of drinking as an unhealthy habit.
The poll also asked about smoking. What did that show?
Yeah, same exact idea. It turns out we're giving up our vices a little bit. What are we talking about? Smoked a cigarette in the last week. Look at this. In 2025, just 11%. A decade ago, it was 19%. 2 decades ago, 25%. You look back 1974, about 50 years ago, it was 40%. What is that? That's 1/4 the level. My goodness gracious. And again, younger folks are the ones who are saying that they are smoking less, and even when you combine in e-cigarettes, we're still looking at considerably lower levels than we have in past decades.
Well, when you grew up getting molested on Roblox, sorry, what? Well, by the way, they're coming after that too. Parents, do not let your kids anywhere on Roblox. I mean, that game is a place literally for pedophiles to contact your children. But my point is, my take on this is, that young people have grown up for a long period of time in virtual worlds. They're not doing social stuff. Alcohol it ought to be a social thing if you're going to do it, right? If you're drinking by yourself in large quantities at home, then that's a major problem. But alcohol, is a social lubricant, is something I enjoy from time to time. But it's a social thing. Smoking, I've never had a cigarette in my life. Literally, not a cigarette, ever. So, but guess what? Americans are also having less sex. And Enton gets to this too. And I think I think it's all the tech to blame.
I'm not saying that sex is a vice. According to some people, perhaps it's a vice. It is not a vice according to the Harry Enton school of thought. But bow chickie wow wow going down. What are we talking about? No sex at all in the last year as Kate's off on the side laughing it up.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not laughing. I'm not
She's doing something.
Sure.
She's not even sure.
I'm blushing under all of this makeup.
She's blushing. There we go. In the 1990s, among all adults, no sex at all in the last year was 18%. In 2024, look at that. No sex at all. Up again 10 points. Look at here. Those 18 to 21, look at that. 24% in the 1990s. It's the younger folks who are getting up to sex. Look at that percentage. Doubled no sex in the last year. Maybe they do need a little bit of alcohol. Maybe those two are related.
But I'll say this. I think this youngest generation coming up, the kids that are growing up now, coming of age now, are far more disciplined than 2 generations ago. This is something to have some optimism over. All right, got to run. That's the music. Get to Ukraine next. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Well, I think the many faces of Prime Minister Maloney yesterday stole some of the show, at least as far as the internet is concerned. Sam Mirejovsky here, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. Sam at whatsrightshow.com is my email. Of course, on X, formerly known as Twitter, you can find me at What's Right Sam. So, Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy, is an expressive lady. Of course, she is Italian, so when she's not speaking with her hands, she is reacting with her face, facial expressions. And a number of people in the media and some on social platforms have been talking about how her expressions yesterday at the White House were not flattering for Trump. Now, I went and I watched the full video. I'm not going to show that to you here because it's the radio, but I went and watched. What I saw was, wow, maybe some libs don't know what this is. See, when a woman likes what you're saying, when you're a man and a woman is liking what she's hearing, she does little things, she'll like turn her head to the side and she'll smile. And then when she looks at you, perhaps kind of purses her lips in a coy way, normal stuff. And I saw this is what Meloni was saying. She was loving everything Trump was saying. She loved the fact that the bureaucrats from Brussels, led by Ursula von der Leyen in the White House, were being spoken to like little children. If anybody was loving it, it was her. You know who was missing from this gathering? Speaking of the Vegas slump, the Canadians, Mark Carney was nowhere to be found. He wasn't invited. Canada, who has long had pretensions of being a real country, didn't even get a seat at the table. And there's a joke. There was a photo of all the leaders that attended in the hallway inside the White House, and they had to make a break between 2 of the participants. 2 of the participants, they had to basically, there was a big potted plant in the way. And so one of the people were joking that Mark Carney was replaced by a ficus. So, or a fern, a potted fern. Well, about the same level of personality. Europe made a trade deal with Trump, right? They made a trade deal. They agreed to spend more money on their NATO, for their NATO obligation on their military budgets. And Carney ran on a platform of fighting Trump, and now look at where they're at. So not a good thing. What we know about what happened yesterday at the White House is that in broad terms, there appears to be a deal, a peace deal, to end the war. That's the gist of it. Now there is a conversation going on, conversations swirling around a trilateral meeting where Putin and Zelensky, together with Trump, would meet to hash out some form of an agreement and end this. Now, could it all fall apart as soon as I get off air today? Of course. Nobody here with the straight face is telling you this is a complicated thing. Both Putin and Zelensky have motivations to continue this war. They also both have strong pressure on them to end things. I saw the polling, Robbie, that you sent me. I have it here. It's the Gallup organization. They did some polling, and apparently the support for a negotiated peace and an end of the war has never been higher in Ukraine. Now, my commentary on this, my cynical commentary earlier consisted of me saying, well, it's hard to propagandize the war effort in Ukraine without all of the funny money flowing from USAID. But Robbie, you are correct. Robbie, the voice of reason here in the studio, folks, producer Robbie was right when he listed the war deaths. I saw a terrible video circulating online of a Ukrainian father traveling in a small little car with his family on a road and basically getting pulled over by the police and hauled away to the military, right in front of his kids. So that stuff is happening, and it's certainly killing the vibe for the war, not to mention, of course, the air raid attacks and such. Now, the same is going on in Russia. For the gosh goodness, I wish I could shake some of these mainstream media libtards and just tell them, listen, folks, you have to understand that this is a cost on the Russian population as well. And while Putin is functionally an autocratic dictator, he still cannot afford to piss off the entirety of the country. The poor are being fed into the meat grinder. The middle class, some of them are able to insulate themselves, but, okay, when I say the middle class in Russia, I mean, these are people that are still living paycheck to paycheck, but have a little bit of a lifestyle. They too are getting hauled into this. But gone are the days of them being able to take a vacation to Western Europe. I mean, you know how difficult it is? You can't use a credit card when you travel. If you're a Russian right now, you are functionally off-grid in the West. I mean, you could go to North Korea, I think. You can go to China. I think you can go to India. You can go to Turkey. You can't fly direct to Italy. You can't. Just that's gone. And for the elites, I mean, their billions of dollars they can't even take their yacht somewhere nice for fear of it getting confiscated by orders of the international order. So it's a difficult situation. And of course, people are dying. And of course, they're running out of money. And of course, the economy is isolated. So there is pressure. Now, I saw somewhere people are saying, well, look at this. There's already a bunch of attacks overnight. This thing is falling apart. And what is Trump going to do? Trump can't do anything. I'm sick and tired of people underestimating Trump. Because Trump is, number one, Trump has gotten everybody to the table. Number two, Trump has figured out how to exercise influence over both parties. What we didn't talk about yesterday, what we didn't acknowledge at all, was that the U.S. and Ukraine signed, thanks to Trump's strong arming of Zelensky, a deal over mineral rights. And this joint, Ukraine-U.S. venture, a joint venture, is a means of telling Putin, this is look, I've already carved out my chunk here, and this is American. This is our way of getting back the invested money, the sunk costs in the war. But if you interfere with this, you're interfering with the United States of America. Forget Zelensky, forget Ukraine. Now you're stepping on my toes. American interest in the region is economic. Trump is using economics to bring people to heel. And to that point, today on CNBC, Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, quickly threw out this almost kind of blink and you missed it, little barb at India for reselling Russian oil. Listen to this carefully, and if you don't immediately catch why this is a threat to Putin to stay on track with this deal, well, don't worry, I'll explain it to you.
Let's go back and look at the history, though, Becky. And look, China importing it is suboptimal. But if you go back and look pre-22, pre-invasion, 13% of China's oil was already coming from Russia. Now it's 16. So China has a diversified input of their oil. If you go back and look now, I believe India had less than 1% of their oil, 1%, and now I believe it's up to 42. So
wow.
India is just profiteering, or they are just profiteering. They are reselling. They've made $16 billion in excess profits, some of the richest families in India. So this is a completely different thing. Like this India, what I would call the Indian arbitrage, buying cheap Russian oil, reselling it as product, has just sprung up during the war, which is unacceptable.
When you have the chief architect of Trump's entire economic policy, Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, also, I would say, one of Trump's closer confidants in his cabinet, saying, we're just watching this. We're watching the Indians go from 1% Russian oil to 42%, buying it and then reselling it as Indian oil because, of course, India is not facing sanctions. We see this and we think it's unacceptable. What is Bessent really doing here? Isn't Bessent saying, this is going to end tomorrow if Trump gets pissed off? We are going to put sanctions on India. We're going to put sanctions on any country out there. And notice how he deliberately doesn't want to pick a fight with China, downplaying the rise, he says it's minor, of China's oil consumption, purchasing from Russia. He's picking on India. He's going, look, India went up 41% since the invasion. They're profiteering on this. And, I mean, that would be a major economic blow to Russia. All the Russians have is oil. That's their one thing that they can export around the world. And if Trump literally goes to any country and embargoes any country that does any business with the Russians, it's going to send the Russian economy into an absolute tailspin. Forget nukes, forget bombs, forget bullets, forget drones even. Trump has figured out a way to economically castrate Putin. And when we come back, I'll play you these idiotic tapes of these people on television, these morons in the mainstream media who just do not fundamentally get what is going on here. Trump is playing chess. All of these people can barely comprehend checkers. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT.
The Salmon Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Well, I put it up on Twitter, Robbie. It's up on X, at What's Right Sam. That's where you can find it. It's a tweet here. It's a tweet. Yeah, it's a picture of the lineup of the world leaders, and in the White House. And unfortunately, Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Elbows Up himself, was replaced by a ficus. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings and welcome to the What's Right show. This is your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m. Yes, okay, well, common sense, look. Everybody understands that to get a deal done between Ukraine and Russia, there's negotiation and give and take. Producer Robbie here prodding me during the break to explain further the issue that we have, that Putin has in his position and why he can't just, give stuff up. No, you're right, Robbie. It has to be explained. Look, if Putin were to say, okay, I'm giving up a bunch of territory, I'm giving it all up. If Putin were to do that, he loses face at home and he gets overthrown. For Putin, it's self-preservation. Now, it's, for Ukrainians, it's, it's a chunk of their territory. I get it. So that's the subject of negotiation. There are other matters as well that need to be discussed. One of them is obviously the security guarantees and who's providing them. And another heart-wrenching issue is the kids, the Ukrainian children that were abducted by the Russians and adopted out into the Russian Federation. So that's an issue. Now, Meloni, Giorgia Meloni, Prime Minister of Italy. She a lot of people saying that she was kind of grimacing at Trump. I think she was grimacing at van der Leyen and the other European people. Meloni absolutely despises the little frog from France. Well, Emmanuel Macron is what his name is. The one that is married to the old woman who Candace Owens thinks is a man. That guy. Anyway, Giorgia Meloni was mugging him, but for Trump, she had nothing but kind words. And here was a statement that she had thanking him, thanking Donald Trump for the meeting.
Thank you very much, Donald, Mr. President, for hosting us today in this important meeting. And I think it is an important day, a new phase, after 3 years and a half that we didn't see any kind of sign from the Russian side that there was a willing for dialogue. So something is changing, something has changed, thanks to you. Thanks also to the stalling in the battlefield, which was achieved with the bravery of Ukrainians and with the unity that we all provided.
Exactly. Nothing's been going on for 3 years. So finally things are moving along. Thank you for your support. By the way, the Finnish premier was there as well. Why is Finland important in the talks? Well, Finland shares a long border with Russia up in the north, in the Baltic, okay? So, and of course, Finland once upon a time got invaded by the Russians under Stalin, and they have a history. So obviously keeping Russia in check is an important issue for Finland. Here is what and I love saying this, here's what the Finnish president, Alex Stubb, had to say about all of this, because he was present there yesterday.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I think in the past 2 weeks, we've probably had more progress in ending this war than we have in the past 3.5 years. And I think the fact that we're around this table today is very much symbolic in the sense that it's Team Europe and Team United States helping Ukraine.
There it is. Now, Kimberly Dozier, today on CNN, a global affairs analyst is what she is, I guess, had this absolutely insane take. This is what the people think that, first of all, don't understand how negotiations or mediations work, and then, of course, are afflicted with severe long-form TDS.
The fact that he feels he's got to check in with Putin right away, and that just as this meeting is taking place, we get news that Putin is saying, by the way, no NATO troops on the ground in Ukraine. That is unacceptable. Still feels like Trump needs Putin's approval in a way that's got to be very disturbing to Zelensky sitting there. But of course, Zelensky was a good actor. He's playing it cool. He's not biting on any of the questions he got. And hopefully what's going to happen is they're going to go into this meeting with European officials, and the Europeans are saying, we need to put these troops on the ground inside Ukraine, and it's not Vladimir Putin's business.
This woman has never been in the real world. Didn't yesterday, if you listen to this program and you listened to me yesterday, I explained how a mediation works. Trump is the mediator. So Ukraine says they want something, blah, 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 blah. Here's the deal. They talk to the Europeans. Then Trump has to get on the phone with the other side. Hey, Putin, this is what they want. What do you say? Right? This is just, to me, this is so fundamentally ignorant of how the real world operates. She's acting, right, Rob? She's acting like they just got an unconditional surrender. Like, how dare they even talk to the enemy? You get to dictate terms in an unconditional surrender. That's exactly right. By the way, Marco Rubio said something just to this effect. I'll get to that when we come back. The long and the short of it is, Trump could not be doing a better job right now. He's become the peacemaker of the world. It's almost unbelievable. By the way, Trump said that he wants to get into heaven, and he hopes that this helps get him there. Well, I don't know if I can answer that, but I certainly think it's a running start. Sam Mirejovsky, be back in a moment. This Governor Newsom press office Twitter account is really going off the chains. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. I am Nevada's favorite recovering Californian. Behind the What's Right microphone, I was going to talk about something else, but of course I am perusing X here during the break, and I see this post here today. This is not, I don't think it's Gavin Newsom writing this. Maybe it's an AI program. There's maybe somebody there doing it. But yeah, Governor Newsom press office responding to Dana Perino. Dana Ding Dong Perino. This is all in caps. Never heard of her until today is melting down because of me, Gavin C. Newsom. Fox hates that I am America's most favorite governor, ratings king, saving America, while Trump can't even conquer the big stairs on Air Force One anymore. Trump has lost his step, and Fox is losing it because when I type, America now wins. Thank you for your attention to this matter, GCN. This is AI. Robbie, it hit me 1,000%. What they're doing is they're taking an AI bot and telling it, we want to get this point across and have it make it sound like Trump. So it's over the top. That is how incurious and complete idiots these people are. Some lib retweeted this and saying, Gavin Newsom is the first Democrat to realize that there's absolutely no going back to the Obama-Romney civility world. The Obama-Romney civility world. Oh, I like this callback. Remember when I always would say here on the program that Democrats love well-behaved Republicans? So Democrats like the Republicans that just go along with them. They like the Republicans that just, are civil and literally let the Democrats run roughshod over them. Now, you know what the problem is with this Twitter account? Because it is not authentically Gavin Newsom, Gavin Newsom will not be, if people actually like the energy, and I don't think it's anything about civility. I think it's all about cringe. This is so awkward. But Newsom will not be able to bring this kind of fire to a debate with anybody. It's not how he sounds. He gets up there and well, and look at me. And that's a shtick. I mean, Trump sounds, when he does a rally, Trump speaks like he tweets because it's him. If you've ever seen the video of Trump writing his tweets, he's literally there dictating them to an aide, to a media aide. And some of them, I'm sure he types out on his own phone. It's Trump, is my point. And he's, genius at this stuff. So this whole thing is just so silly. Well, it's right. Okay. I promised to, all these idiots in the media talking about how Trump is crawling up Putin's rear end and making Trump has capitulated to Putin. See, we knew it. Even Adam Schiff came out last night. I think he wrote a tweet. Adam Schiff, huddling with his lawyers, worried about the 6 a.m. raid that's going to come sooner or later. Good morning, Mr. Schiff, Mr. Senator. We're here from the FBI. Open up. So he put out a tweet. See, this is what happens when you fraternize with Russia, with Putin. This is what you get. Total capitulation. Rubio yesterday, Fox News, Jesse Waters last night, after everything that happened in Washington, put it absolutely perfectly. Have nothing really to add to this. Rubio, of course, really coming out as a rising star in this administration.
In any negotiation to bring about the end of a war or any conflict for that matter, it's going to require both sides to receive, but also to give. In essence, one side's not going to get 100% here. Each side is going to have to make some concessions. And obviously land, or where you draw those lines, where the war stops, is going to be part of that conversation. And it's not easy, and maybe it's not even fair, but it's what it takes in order to bring about an end to a war. And that's has been true in every war. The only wars that don't end that way are the ones that have unconditional surrender by one side or the other, and we're not going to see that in this conflict. So obviously the issue of that will be talked about, and the president's been very clear. In the end, what those lines look like are up to Putin and up to Zelensky and up to the Ukrainian side to decide what each one can live with. We are going to be there to facilitate that and make that possible and make sure that both sides are talking. And by the way, President Trump is the only leader in the world, acknowledged by all the Europeans, the only leader in the world that can talk to both of them and bring them both to a meeting is Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States. He's the only one. And the fact that he's willing to do it is something that every American, including Democrats, should be happy that we have a peace president. We should be proud that we have a president that's made peace a priority in his administration.
Yeah, and so as as Trump is wrangling Putin to the table and the Europeans and making trade deals and getting Zelensky on board and selling American machinery and weapons to Ukraine and to Europe as part of the deal, getting mineral rights in return, blah, 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 winning, winning, winning. We have the Timu Trump, the Democrat Timu Trump, Mr. Gavin Newsom, via an AI chatbot, writing stupid tweets. It is so fantastically diminishing to the Democrats. Again, all they have are performance stunts. All they have are these sort of empty, just empty, drama kids, what we call them, right? Theater kids. Here's what's going to come back to haunt Newsom. If you've been following this crash, this just absolutely horrifying crash that happened in Florida. This is I saw the video. This happened a few days ago. And apparently a couple of drivers, illegal immigrants, certainly the driver's an illegal immigrant from India, a country where people do not really give a rip about human life. I'm just going to be honest with you. This is a fact. You go to India, there's very much the haves and the have-nots. If you're a lower class person in India, your life, it doesn't matter. And the people that are in power in India treat your life with tremendous insignificance. I mean, that is in the culture. So you have these two guys that come to the country illegally, and they manage to get a commercial driver's license. Now, what the U.S. Transportation Secretary, Sean P. Duffy, has said about this, that the preliminary findings show that they got back in 2023, or the driver got in 2023 from Washington State, another blue state, a CDL, a commercial driver's license. Okay? He noted that, of course, asylum seekers and individuals that do not have legal status are not eligible for this type of license. Doesn't matter. Washington State gave it to them anyway. A week later, on the 23rd of July, no, excuse me, a week and a year later, on 23rd of July, 2024, so about a year ago, California, the Republic of California, Mr. Gavin Newsom's state, issued a limited term, non-domiciled CDL. And now the Transportation Department is investigating if this was issued in accordance to federal regulation, which I think sounds to me like maybe it wasn't. And this guy apparently, this is the problem. Can I just say this? Generally speaking, the left has, Democrats have, in order to attract and keep and develop out of illegals future voters, have put Americans in danger. That's the high-level take of the story. And I don't care how many tweets, obnoxious tweets, Governor Newsom puts out, or his press AI chatbot. Governor Newsom said, press bot. Well, that's what we'll call it. His press bot puts out, making fun of this. And that's what he's doing. He's put some tweets out where he's like, oh, well, looks like this guy was legalized in the country when Trump was president. He's like lies, complete and total lies he's putting out there. There is no doubt. And by the way, we do it here in Nevada too. We give driver's license to illegals. And people say, well, it's not real ID. Well, it's a temporary, has a little mark on it. I don't care. We should not give driver's licenses to people who are in the country illegally. You do not get a benefit, any kind of benefit, if you have not been legalized here in the U.S. This is such and let alone a commercial driving permit. 3 people died. You know what they did? They when you get on a freeway and they have those little brakes in the center divider for cops and emergency services to be able to make a turn. And it says on it, for emergency personnel only. Well, these 2 bozos decided to make a U-turn there in a giant truck, tractor trailer. So what happens when you make a tight turn and you don't know what the F you're doing? Well, the trailer got stuck, pinched at the kind of the turn, the hairpin turn there, and then they couldn't get it out, and a car was coming down the freeway and went underneath it, and it basically decapitated every person in the car. This is horrifying. The story, I'm going to tell you right now, there is no question to me that the story is only going to get worse. I guess the federal investigators, they administered an English language proficiency assessment of the driver who killed the 3 people, and he provided correct responses to just 2 out of 12 verbal questions. This dipnoid doesn't even speak English, snuck into this country across the open U.S.-Mexico border. Got 2 blue states to give him commercial driving licenses. This is a great shame on the Democratic Party. This is the substance that Gavin Newsom will be trying to run away from when he runs for president in 2028. Hopefully by then he's an indicted felon serving time in prison for the stolen money, the fire funds in California, just to name one of his many coming problems. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. What's Right show will continue in a moment. Yep, I think probably not a good idea to have illegals driving with commercial driver's licenses, big trucks, trucking all across America. Not the best idea. This guy who caused this crash apparently answered just 2 out of 12 questions in English verbally correctly. Sam Mirejovsky here, News Talk 840 KXNT, the What's Right show brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam and Ash 702-820-1234 if you were traveling on the interstate and, gosh forbid, out of nowhere comes one of these big rigs manned by an illegal Indian, and you hear that? Just kidding. First of all, get the hell out of the way. But if something happens, call me. All right. 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. English is optional, apparently. Well, I mean, Trump is cleaning up the Smithsonian. Got to hand him that. Trump's going in. He's de-wokifying the Smithsonian, and he is he's going through and basically wants to highlight American exceptionalism. Why would we invite the world to the preeminent museum in our nation's capital and teach our visitors that America is a POS? Right? This is what the left does. The left is a self-loathing bunch intent on talking down our country's greatness. And the result is, of course, that there's decay in everything that they touch. Because exceptionalism is not something that they practice. So, I'm just telling you. That's how it is. Well, DeSantis spoke about this. He spoke about this crash. Listen what the governor of Florida had to say.
It can't just be like we do things right in Florida and somehow that's going to cure what's happening on the left coast and some of these other places. Ultimately, Congress has the power of the purse. They do not need to fund you if you're a sanctuary state. They can remove funding from sanctuary cities. So stop subsidizing this. You know, you have people that are in Congress that are complaining about what happened. And while I appreciate the sympathy, it's like you guys have the power of the purse. You can discipline these states that don't follow the law and incentivize law breaking.
And of course, speaking of the driver, DeSantis said this.
This guy comes in from India illegally across the U.S.-Mexico border, and he claims asylum. Now, think about that. You know, it'd be one thing if, like, you know, when people, you know, would come from Cuba and they claim asylum because this was the first place they could get to, right? And you've had situations where this has happened. You're coming from India. How many other countries are you going through? And then you show up in the southern border and say asylum? Like, what? Why didn't you get asylum somewhere else? So they're abusing the process and the statutes that we have in the United States of America, and they're trained to do this. So you have massive numbers of people that have claimed it, millions and millions have claimed it, you know, just leaving country in Central America. They're not truly seek, they're just basically economic migrants, however you're doing it. And so you have this incentive. So he was basically given some type of preliminary determination to say, okay, you'll have a hearing in 2 or 3 years, and then it gets pushed, and then it gets pushed, and all this stuff. And it's basically a one-way ratchet. You can come in pretty much unfettered. Well, in the past you could illegally. And then if there's any type of law enforcement, it's like this massive bureaucratic maze that you have to go through. And so Congress can address that too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 1,000%. By the way, DeSantis goes on to say that, heck, we don't give driver's licenses to illegals, so we don't even recognize California driver's licenses anymore in the great state of Florida.
In Florida, what we've said is we're not giving licenses if you're here illegally. We're not giving ID cards. In fact, you can't even do like these NGOs want to issue. We don't allow that. We don't recognize California driver's licenses. And so we're creating a situation where following the law is the right thing to do and violating the law is the wrong thing to do. Now, California, they do it differently. They invite people to come illegally. They provide benefits. They provide a lot of different things. I mean, honestly, some of them get treated better than blue-collar Americans out there with their policies. So that ends up attracting, it creates more of this.
Incidentally, Illinois right now, Pritzker, the big guy himself, they're in a $3.5 billion with a B dollar deficit. And they've given something like 2.6 and 2.7 so far this year $1 billion in benefits to illegal immigrants in the state of Illinois. Sometimes things are just upside down. So really, we have a fight now before us between the Democrats, who I guess want to open the borders again, want to confer upon illegal immigrants the full benefits of citizenship, in just a complete workaround of federal law. They want crime. They want deficit spending. They want an endless war in Ukraine. They want they want our trading partners to take advantage of us. I go on and on. That's the platform of the Democratic Party. And then guy running for mayor in Minneapolis held a rally. He's got this woman speaker there. Listen to this.
Congresswoman at the Shane.
Yeah.
Sida ka soo wada baxnay. Haddaba Umar waa ka xumahayo. Virginia qaboobaa la ku dhalay. Laakiin se waan adopt gareynay. Sidarna wax badan ma joogine.
Minnesota. This is Minnesota. Brought to you by the Democratic Party. No, sorry, I'm out. And I say this, by the way, as the son of immigrants. First thing my parents did before they even came here, learn the language. For Pete's sake. This is a clown show. All right, folks, that's a wrap. I'll see you tomorrow. Sam at what'srightshow.com, at What's Right Sam on X. Be well and keep the faith.